Welcome to Successful Living with Bill Napick. Every week we talk about success and everything that goes along with it. You'll learn the principles of success, how to achieve success, and learn to overcome challenges that may be getting in the way of success in your life. You'll hear from Bill Napick, a radio personality and business development expert, along with insight from special guests. If you're ready to find your path to success or take the success you're enjoying to the next level, stay tuned. Successful Living with Bill Napick is on right now.
And welcome to the show. Bill Napick here, Successful Living and Successful Living with Allie Wood today. She is with Allie Wood Design Studio. She is an interior designer in Houston, Texas, and in New York City. So we're so glad you tuned in. We're glad that you're here. We always learn something, and this is where America tunes in to hear great talk, to hear about whether you're listening in Houston, Texas, New York City. Maybe we'll have today some listeners, but wherever it is, we think you're going to pick up something because we always have interesting people, and boy, we live in our home, interior design. Whether we focus on it or appreciate it or not, it is such a part of our lives. And we're going to learn all about that and more with Allie Wood, with Allie Wood Design Studio. Allie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, here you are in Houston, Texas, and you serve two markets. First of all, tell people about your company and what you do.
Well, we're a residential interior design firm, primarily. Of course, we do hospitality and commercial when it comes our way, but primarily residential. We're, like you said, in Manhattan and in Houston. Now, being in Manhattan means we serve kind of that whole surrounding area. That is New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York, because, of course, we have so much feeding into the city to work out of Manhattan.
And that picture that you create, before we even talk about Houston, the New York City scene is probably so influential to your work, some of the creations and your creative ideas that you get across. But also, you just mentioned a very important part of New York, and that is, like you said, people know it, big city, but people come every day from all over to work there. And even some of them, and I think some of them that you serve, probably have places that they use during the week, and then they go back to New Jersey, Connecticut, or upstate New York.
Absolutely true. So many of my clients have pied-à-terres in the city where they spend time during the week when they're going to and from work, and then they have their actual houses where their kids are in school or their families really stay, which are an hour, sometimes 2 hours away from the city. The people who truly commute and maybe do not have those apartments in the city are only coming maybe 45 minutes in from outlying areas just 30 or 40 minutes outside of the city, north of New York, Westchester area primarily, up to Greenwich, and then everybody more north of that up to Westport and into New Jersey. A lot of those people have the apartments like you're saying, so they're clients that, and I end up with two projects for one.
Very interesting. And how do they know about you? How long have you been working in the New York area?
In the New York area, I've been working for about 10 years. Honestly, it's all word of mouth. I've never really done any advertising. I've never really needed to. For a long time, I truthfully didn't even have a website. It was all word of mouth. Referrals are the best thing you can possibly ask for in this business.
No doubt about it. In fact, as people are listening to us, I'm going to tell them your website, alliewood.com, and that's ALLIE wood.com, so they can look at the site and see your wonderful work. The pictures are breathtaking. They can see that as we talk, and that'll add another dimension to this radio experience for them, right?
Absolutely. It's a small little sampling of our work, and of course we have a lot more to show. Everything we do is so client-based. Our focus, and I think part of why we've been successful, is I really focus as an interior designer on what my clients want and creating the best space for them and their goals and the look that they're trying to achieve. It's not necessarily about what I want for them. It's about what they want and how I can fine-tune it and make it the best.
And doing it this many years, you know the questions to ask. In any profession, in communication, whatever we're doing, questions are so important. But let's go to, give us an example of, let's say, if there's such a thing as a standard job that you do in the New York area in terms of square feet, what they would ask you to say, hey, Allie, we want you to make this space nicer. So let's say it's a 2,000 square foot place in New York, a townhome or whatever, right? So when you do that, what are the kind of questions that you ask someone to determine how you're going to help them make it nicer?
I need to know about their family. I need to know what their family is, if that's including children, including pets. I need to know if their parents come and stay with them several months out of the year because maybe they're from somewhere else and the parents come and stay and help with the kids all of summer. I need to know if they're gone during summer, if they have a Hamptons house and they're going to be away. I need to know just because there are certain things we do and don't want to buy. Say if they don't have someone who's coming in to take care of the house, but they're going to be gone for several months, I know I can't put real indoor plants in the house. There's so many things we have to know about. I need to know all of the activities they plan to do in each space because I need to make sure that we give them the appropriate spaces within each room to accomplish what they're looking for. I need to know if they want a TV in the living room or not and if they want to hide it. If their kids do homework at the kitchen island or if they need desk spaces in their rooms or if they need both, frankly. If they have allergies because there are certain materials we can and can't use. We need to be really careful about the materials we use in terms of how cleanable they are. Because obviously if people have pets and young children, we need to use outdoor fabrics on the inside, which have come such a long ways in the last 10 years. It's amazing. You really can't tell the difference anymore.
Well, let's take a look to as we talk about, say, 2,000 square feet. I don't know where I came up with that number, but let's go back and narrow it down, say, to the room. And you mentioned the family room. Is there going to be a TV there? Is there not going to be? But that seems to be a gathering place a lot of times. So let's take that family room, living room, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. What's the right term these days?
Depends on if you have two or one. I like to call it the family room when it's open to other rooms.
All right, so it's the family room. So when you look at it, yes, you mentioned some of the questions that you're going to ask, but what are some of the other things as you look around? Because I'm a big fan of Architectural Digest, and what I realize when I look at that magazine is that my home doesn't look like that, and perhaps you're the way to get it there, but I look at that, and I know other people do. And someone might say to me, hey, Bill, what's your style or what do you like? And quite frankly, I can go through that magazine and find something contemporary that I like, something not contemporary, because it's all really done well. But, I mean, what are the things that you think about other than the TV or no TV that speak to the way it looks and to have a style that really makes you feel good when you're in there?
Well, you have to think about how you're going to lounge in the space. If you need sofas that are conversation depth or if they're deeper and you're really going to lay back and watch TV, we need to think about all the materials and bringing in different materials, different textures, a couple of different patterns. Make sure we stick to a color palette. Make sure we get lighting from all aspects of the room. So we need overhead lighting, but that's not the greatest lighting. So you really can't light a room with only overhead cans or chandeliers. You have to have lamp level lighting so that you have lighting low and around people's faces because that makes them look better and not quite as old, which of course none of us want to look old. If you sit underneath a can right above you on a sofa, everybody looks horrible. So you really have to add that kind of intermediary lighting.
Yes. Very
makes
interesting.
A huge difference.
Now, going back to the New York idea, forget the design, but when you get there, is there an excitement that you feel? I haven't been to New York City for a long time. I used to live not that far away, but is there a certain excitement that you feel? You get jazzed up when you go there?
I get jazzed up when I come home to Houston or when I go home to New York. It's the same feeling, I guess, in both places. There's such an appreciation and a love for Houston because this is where I was born and raised. And then there's such a feeling and a excitement and a racing pace that you live at when you're in New York that the minute you step off the plane, I'm at a different pace. I'm doing everything a little bit more organized and faster, which may just all be in my head, but it's in my head. I think I'm doing it.
Well, it's very exciting. Let's tell people, those that are listening here in Houston, what you offer and the kind of the areas that you serve and the scope of your work right here in Houston. What do you do for people here?
For people here, I have lots of different clients. Sometimes I work for builders and I make selections and millwork drawings and tile and lighting and all of that for spec homes, or I work directly with custom buyers that may have come to a builder and said, I want to build a custom home. Well, I'll take them through the process. I kind of become their advocate. I will help them through the process of designing with an architect. We will help them make all the selections and stay within budget with that builder and then do all the drawings. Oftentimes people feel lost when they're working with a builder because maybe the process isn't quite organized enough for someone who's not done this before. So a lot of clients come to me and say, oh my gosh, the builder asked me to make paint selections and tile selections, and I don't even know where to begin. I've never heard of Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, or Farrow and Ball. And so that's where we come in and really make the process streamlined. The builders often start using us pretty much on every house after that because it makes the process easier for them too. There's a lot less change orders when we're involved.
Very nice. And also, I'll tell people again, alliewood.com, ALLIE. they could browse as we talk. It is really, the work is beautiful. Do you find it easier to work with, and you mentioned builders, so I'm thinking of an empty home with just the structure, architecturally, whatever the lines are and so forth, but is it easier to work with a blank canvas like that where the home's completely empty? Or is it to come into someone's home and look at it that way and say, okay, I can do something for you? Which is easier?
Truthfully, I do a lot of work with builders, but I also do extensive remodels where people have most of their big pieces of furniture already, and we may just be recovering and replacing a few things. And then we come in when people have bought a house and do all new furniture for those people as well. I don't know that there's an easier way for me to do it. I love challenges, and the more kind of challenges and intricacies that there are about a particular project, the more interesting it is to me in the very end. If I have an open path and no one gives me any guidance, my work is going to be less creative than if you give me guidelines and structure that I have to play within the rules. It becomes a much more interesting project.
On one hand, I would say that if money were no object, in my case, I might say to you,
taste in art is very tricky. It's so individual. Sometimes, depending on who the clients are, we bring in art consultants just when there's absolutely not enough time in the world for us to pull enough artwork for them to choose for an entire house full of art. We need a little help sometimes.
All right, I just thought of something along the same lines as artwork. Here's something. A lot of homes, and again, going back to design magazines, shelves. Okay. Family room, for example. I'm thinking of mine right now. I have a shelf. It isn't where it should be, quite frankly. I don't know how to get it there, but looking at the shelf, I can consult with a design magazine, and I'll look at that, and I'll see some homes, some rooms, family rooms, have the bookshelves where they're packed, and maybe they're uniform, and it looks good. And then sometimes you see an approach to the shelf where it's almost empty except for a few items. So as the interior designer, when you look at a shelf, how do you get that shelf to be the best it can be based on the person you're dealing with or people you're dealing with?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's so much based on who we're dealing with. So if we have someone who's a collector who has amazing things from travels from all over the world, then we are probably going to pack those shelves. And there's a great way to do it and make it look good. And we do that every day. But if they don't have a lot of items they've collected over time, frankly, we're not going to try and pack the shelves because it's not who they are. So generally, we'll take the approach that you want open space, just a few groupings on the shelves, clean and open, simple. Don't overdo it for people who aren't collectors.
And what if someone just likes books? Is there a way to have the shelves packed with books where it looks good?
Absolutely. You've got to kind of color coordinating is a big part of that.
So we
have to
color coordinate the books?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
wow.
Keeping the binding color coordinated makes a big difference. Look in magazines, you'll notice now. The way that they separate books is always in groupings of color, maybe keeping all the books neutral or keeping all the reds and pinks together, keeping all the blues together, et cetera, et cetera. But anything you can do to add more organization visually helps people like the space better. It's just a natural. We try to organize things so that we can see them clearer, and it's just natural. We like things that are organized.
And I think that's a key word, Allie, and that is organized, right? Organizing in the design and in the room makes it just look better. However you organize it. In fact, I'll reference, it's still amazing. I don't know how old the book is. I have it on a digital copy, The Life-Changing Art of Tidying Up, or The Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. That's on the bestseller list last week and probably this week. I mean, that's amazing to be selling that many books and that people have a thirst to get organized. Have you read the book?
I haven't.
It's very interesting.
Clearly I should.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a fascinating book about decluttering everything, but it shows that people want to be organized. But the value, tell people about the value, let's say a before and after situation where someone had their home or a room that wasn't quite right, but now that it's brought to be the best it can be, or it's had a professional touch, how much they enjoy their home and their room better. Do you hear people come back and say, Allie, I love this room so much? Right?
It is the most rewarding thing in the world for me to have a client come back and tell me how much easier their life is now that we've fixed their space. It's not so much that they come in and say, you fixed my space. It's that they just love their space.
They enjoy
now.
being there more.
They don't know how to verbalize it necessarily. It's so hard. I mean, even for myself, it's hard. it's always hard when you're doing something for yourself. It's hard to know what your problems are or what the things you're missing in your space. It's very easy for me to come in and go through a list and say, okay, where do you need file cabinets? Where do you need all of these little things? Maybe if we're doing an office, a home office, it's very easy for us, since that's our job, to figure out exactly what they need, but it's hard for someone, like I'm saying, to do it for themselves. So sometimes they just need someone to help guide them along that path, and then we can get it to a final point. And yes, of course, it's going to be 100 times easier for them to work in a space where they've had someone guide them through kind of the steps to creating a perfect office or whatever it might be.
And even when we visit places, whether we visit a hotel, a restaurant, if we're in an environment that feels good and looks cool to us, we're enjoying it more, right? We're laughing more with our friends at a restaurant that has a nice ambiance. It just makes life work better, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a big part of what we do. There are certain colors and materials and, frankly, lighting that works for different types of spaces that don't work for others. So we have to assess all of those things every time that we create a space, because it's not a thing you think about when you're in the space. Oh, the lighting's off, so that's why I don't like this restaurant. But we know that when I go dine at a restaurant, I'll be able to tell the lighting is off because it's what I do. So I walk into a space and immediately, of course, I judge everything about it because I'm trying to figure out for myself why I do and don't like it so that I can apply those principles continuously in my business.
And right. And also with you being in New York City and in Houston, boy, you could trade ideas and you learn so much. So you really, no matter who is here in Houston in the competitive world of interior design, I have a feeling that you're one of the most unique people in that you have that field of both major markets and you're able to bring ideas and probably that is affected your people say, hey, yeah, that's great, Allie. I didn't know we could do that. In the meantime, also for people listening in Houston or anywhere else, Allie, if they want to use your services, do you have like a minimum thing where you only work on a whole house, or can you work on rooms if someone says, hey, I just want this room right now? How does that work if they want to use your services?
It depends on how many projects we have going on at the time. I probably one of my weaknesses is that I hate saying no. So I take on a lot of projects if they're one room but it's a full room and we think it's going to be fabulous to work with these clients, we enjoy who they are, then yes, we'll take it on. Do most of our projects consist of entire houses? Absolutely. Very, very rarely do we do single rooms. And if we do take on a single room, it's generally because it's a test of some sort and we're going to do an entire house for them after we complete this room for them.
Interesting. When you mention an entire house, how long does that take?
Well,
average?
Depends on the project. I would say 6 months to 2 years. The average is probably a year. It depends on if it's new construction or if we're just furnishing it. If we're just furnishing it, we can do it in 4 months if they're in a hurry, max a year if they're really not in any aching pain to get it done quickly.
I gotcha. And if people want to reach out to you, they go to alliewood.com, right?
Yeah.
ALLIE wood.com. Super awesome. Also, with the last couple minutes, Allie, tell people you are in business for yourself now for, I think, about 10 years or so.
Right.
I mean, to do that right there, that's an accomplishment. I've always